So get in touch with your own feeling of how much you want happiness and not suffering, and how this really lies at the center of your life. So get in touch with that feeling, that knowledge. And then think of somebody that you're very close to, and think that that's the center of their life too. That's what the primary thing that makes them tick, so to speak. It's that wish for happiness and not suffering. And then think of a stranger, maybe somebody at the gas station or the supermarket or the bank, or that you walked past on the street or drove past. They were sitting in another car. So somebody you don't know, but think, at the root of their day-to-day life too is this incredible wish to be happy and not suffer. And then extend that awareness also to people that you don't like or people you feel threatened by. And realize that what is making them tick on a day-to-day basis is that same thing, the wish to be happy and not suffer. And then thinking that all of us have the same thing at the heart of our lives, the wish for happiness and not suffering. That it's only fair that we strive for the happiness of all and to eliminate the suffering of all. And with that understanding, and that's generate bodhicitta aspiring for full awakening, so that we can do just that. So in our day and age, especially in the country right now, there's so much on dividing people into different categories. Yeah. As if, along racial lines, and gender, and ethnicity, and religion, and social class, and so many different ways of dividing people up. And what it does is it makes us think that maybe not everybody wants happiness. And maybe not everybody wants to avoid suffering. Yeah. So we have so many different kinds of people. And so even in our heart, this is something that's so obvious. Even the bugs want happiness and they don't want suffering. Even the birds, even the ants. Nobody wants suffering and everybody wants happiness and security. But when we divide everybody up, then it gives us the false appearance that maybe not everybody's the same, or even if they are the same, maybe they all don't deserve happiness equally. And then then arises all the bigotry and the hatred and the blame and so forth. And we can see very clearly that that kind of stuff is tearing the country apart. It's tearing the world apart. If we really focus our mind on everybody wanting happiness and not wanting suffering in an equal way, then the superficial differences between people become very clearly superficial differences. Yeah. And we see that dividing people into so many groups when all of us have at the heart of our lives the same intention, the same feeling, that it's quite unreasonable, actually, to divide people, and all other sentient beings for that matter, too, into so many different groups, thinking that they're all different. I had an interesting experience when I gave a talk at Harvard last month. And one young man in the Q&A session started asking me about Buddhist groups and how they don't seem to have people of color in them. And shouldn't the Buddhist groups do more than that? have special activities. And I said, yeah, definitely everybody's welcome. Some Buddhist centers that are predominantly white have special activities for people of color. I said at the Abbey, we've never really done that because our community is very diverse to start with in terms of nationality and the people who visit us and so on. Very, very diverse. And so I said, we've never done that because it just kind of happens. And then he was saying, he was Asian, and he said, well, some of my black friends, when they go to Buddhist centers, they don't see anybody who looks like them. And me too, when I go to Buddhist centers, I don't see anybody who looks like me. And I shot right back without a thought. Why do you need somebody who looks like you? Yeah. He didn't like that answer very much. But I realized why I shot it back so automatically was I've been spending over 40 years trying to see how people are all the same. And as a college student nowadays in America, they're all seeing how people are different. So it was a very interesting experience. Yeah. And very, very curious. And how, when we see ourselves as different, then we become different. And we see everybody else as different. And then it's harder to make connection. And so it's harder to develop love and compassion for everybody. When we look beyond the superficial color of skin or, racial, gender, sexual, religious, ethnic kind of things, and into everybody's heart, then it becomes very evident that we're all very much alike. So I realized, how training my mind for some years in that thought had had some kind of effect on my mind. And that this young man's mind didn't have that on the radar. Yeah. But I really think that that's the key to it. Now, some other students were upset and they said, you were dismissing his diversity, you were dismissing his identity and, not paying attention to his identity. And maybe, but there was a reason for dismissing it, or not dismissing it, I should say, not paying attention to it, was because of the training I've been undergoing for all these years. Yeah. And I certainly realize I've met enough people and talked to enough people to know that people have really different ways of seeing things, and they have very different experiences, and that people's experiences in this life shape how they are. But also, people, the karma we bring in from previous lives also shapes who we are. So we can't ignore any of that. That all comes into being, or, into consideration when you're dealing with a specific individual, and trying to be of benefit. But this overriding thing of all of our similarity, I think is really the key to get us to overcome bias and prejudice. Now, some of you may not agree, but I'm not going to let you talk. the reason is because before speaking, I would like people to really think about what I said. Lots of times we hear things in Dharma teachings and immediately, yes, but. And it's sometimes very helpful to just take some time and think about what the speaker said and see how, instead of our instant reaction, to try and understand how they meant that and what that means, and let it challenge your perspective. And if challenging your perspective, you really feel that your perspective is right, then say something. But if you try and understand the other person's perspective and you kind of say, well, yeah, that makes some sense. We are all alike. But when you're talking about an individual and trying to benefit, you have to take in all these different considerations of this life and previous life and so on. Everybody's have different experiences. We're not saying everybody is exactly the same in every aspect. So just try and maybe think about it a little bit and practice this meditation of thinking how everybody wants happiness and doesn't want suffering in an equal way, and practice it daily for some time and see what effect it has on your mind. If maybe it opens your mind in some ways towards people that you had some bias against before, or maybe it will help you forgive people that you've held a grudge against. Okay? But give it a chance before saying, yes, but. Okay? Then another thing I wanted to bring up is, because I know some people here are new to the whole idea of karma. And, when we first hear about it, it can be, it's very easy to misinterpret. Yeah. And one of the reasons that it's easy to misinterpret is for people brought up in a Christian culture. There's certain ideas that you've been inculcated with that you very easily translate into a Buddhist perspective. And those ideas are of punishment and reward, and deserving happiness and deserving suffering. Okay? Because many people have been raised with the idea of a creator God, and then depending on how you respond to God or interact with God, or depending on your behavior, you are punished, you are rewarded, and your reward and punishment last eternally. So there's no room to make a boo-boo. Yeah. So people get very, this whole thing of reward and punishment. And from reward and punishment, it's like, well, if somebody did bad, they deserve to suffer. And if somebody did good, they deserve to be happy. So those people who are in pain, they're in pain because they deserve it, because they did something awful. And that means that they're inferior people. They're not like me, who would never do such a thing and land me in that circumstance. Okay? So we tend to think like that. And we tend to think, coming from a Christian culture, we don't think of rehabilitation, even in our criminal injustice system. We think of punishment. Yeah. We think if you punish somebody, they will change. If you try and give them skills and teach them so that they will overcome their hindrances, that is spoiling them. Okay. Now, from your own experience, when you've been punished, whether in school or at home, did that make you change? First of all, did it make you change? Second question, if it did make you change, was it a happy change? Did you feel happy about making that change? Okay. So, when you were punished, what kind of effect did it have on you? Mm-hmm.
It taught me to hate.
It taught you to hate.
Well, hate would arise.
Yeah. Hate arises. People punish us.
And then the hate itself added an extra punishment because that's real.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to repeat what you said? Yeah. So she said, hate arose, and then because you got punished, then you hated the person who punished you, and you felt it was very unjust and discriminatory. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It helped me to hate myself also.
Yes, it helped you to hate yourself. We got angry at the people who said that, but then one corner of our mind said, well, maybe we are like that. So we started to hate ourselves. Okay. Now, did it change our behavior? Sometimes it may have changed our behavior because we were afraid of more punishment. Sometimes it made us more entrenched in our behavior because we didn't want other people telling us what to do and inflicting punishment on us. Yeah.
What I did was it changed my behavior if the person was there to see my behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute that they weren't there to see it, I stayed with what I thought was better.
Yeah.
So I got very sneaky on top of the hate.
Okay, yes. How many other people did that? Yeah, I would say most of us, huh? When we got punished, we'd be nice in front of the punisher, and then we would go do what we wanted, okay, when they weren't there. Okay, so hold on, okay. So, there's something about punishment that doesn't work. And yet in our society, we still hold on to the idea that punishment works and that people deserve it. And they deserve to suffer. Now, I wonder if we think that person deserves to suffer. Do we have a compassionate mind at the time we're thinking that? Far from it. We have a vindictive mind, don't we? Is that vindictive mind that they deserve to suffer? Is that creating virtue for us? No. Is it helping us in any way? No. Does it make you wonder what kind of person you are that you want to see somebody else suffer? Yeah? Do you ever ask that question? When I'm wishing somebody else to suffer and to be punished, what kind of human being am I? that I wish suffering on another living being? Okay? Something's wrong. Something's wrong there. Okay? Now, let's take that back to the idea of karma. If you plant daisy seeds, and daisies grow from them, are the daisies a reward or a punishment? No. They're simply a result. Okay? When you plant chili pepper seeds, or you plant knapweed seeds, and you get knapweed, or you get chili peppers, is your knapweed and are your chili peppers a reward or a punishment? No, there's just a result. Okay? So when we think about karma, and we say from virtue comes happiness, from non-virtue comes misery, the happiness and the misery are not rewards and they're not punishments. They're simply results of actions. That's all. Even if the result is happening in a future life. Okay? So it is not indicative of the person's moral character. It doesn't mean that people who suffer are morally inferior to people who are happy. If we look in our lives, in your life, do you have some happiness and some misery? Is there anybody here who has pure happiness? Anybody here who has pure misery? Okay, we have a combination. Why? Because in the past, we've done both virtuous and non-virtuous actions. Okay. Now, what about in this life? Anybody here who's only done virtuous actions? Yeah. Now, you already admitted to sneaking behind people's back and lying to them. So, okay. So, none of us have done pure virtue this life. None of us have done pure non-virtue this life. Okay. So, we experience, as a result of previous life's karma, some happiness and some suffering, and the same will happen for next life unless we do some purification, yeah, and really put some energy into creating more positive karma. Okay, but none of that means that people deserve happiness or deserve suffering. None of it means some people are morally superior and others morally inferior. Okay? So that's very, very important to understand. Don't bring in the Judaic Christian way of looking at things into Buddhism, because what Buddhism is talking about is different. Okay? Because the Buddha did not create the world. The Buddha did not create living beings. He didn't create the path. He only described the path. The Buddha does not judge us. The Buddha does not send us to heaven or hell or inflict suffering on us since we were bad and, give us birthday parties since we were good. None of that comes from the Buddha. That all just comes as results of our own actions. The Buddha has complete and total compassion for everybody, even the people who hate him, even the people who ignore his teachings. Yeah, from his side, there's no bias at all. So if the Buddha could eliminate everybody's suffering, he would have by now, because there's absolutely no reason, if you have the control to stop suffering, to let it continue, if you have compassion. Okay? But the thing is that there's the influence of the Buddha and the holy being, and there's the influence of our own actions. The Buddha can't do it all. We have to help. We have to participate. We're responsible. Okay? So when we suffer, we say, this is a result of my own wrongdoing. Otherwise, you could say Buddha willed it, but that doesn't make any sense, And this is, I think, part of the problem of seeing a creator in charge of the universe, because why in the world would God will suffering? If God was compassionate and omnipotent, what purpose would suffering serve? Yeah. One of our friends teaches school, and a middle school, and a few years ago, one of the students at the school died, I think maybe from a car accident or something. Yeah. And, it's a fairly Christian area, and all the children were told that at home and at church, well, I don't know the child's name, but let's say Billy, God took Billy to heaven. God wanted Billy to be in heaven. And one little boy, after thinking about this for a while, said, I don't like God. He took my friend away. And why should he do that if God is kind? So this is the difficulty with that. Okay? So please leave behind all sense of reward and punishment, And from our side, our job is to cultivate compassion for everybody, no matter whether they help us or harm us, no matter whether we like them or don't like them. Okay? Because everybody's worthy of compassion. Okay? Compassion being the wish that they not suffer. Everybody's worthy of that simply due to the fact that they are a living being. Yeah. We don't have to do a tap dance and somersaults to prove to anybody that we're worthy of being happy and not suffer. Okay? So it's important to understand this about karma. Mm-hmm.
So if one perceives being punished, would that probably indicate having been very punitive to others in the past, or is it that direct?
You mean if you feel like another specific person is punishing you? Well, that person may have that motivation to punish you. But that doesn't mean that you need to see it as punishment.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm getting at is I need to, if I ever feel that way, I should watch my mind and,
right.
say,
Yeah.
I don't need to see it this way.
Because the thing is, people can say all sorts of things to us. Horrible, mean, cruel things. Some are maybe true. Most of them are probably not. But we don't need to believe everything everybody else says. Yeah? I mean, if we can't even believe all of our own thoughts, because sometimes they're a bit nutty, how can we believe everybody else's thoughts? You know? So somebody may say you're a creep. That doesn't mean you're a creep. Okay? Somebody may say you're fantastic. That doesn't mean you're fantastic. Okay? We have to look inside and evaluate our own behavior and also realize that people and their actions are different. Okay? Behavior may be virtuous or non-virtuous. It may be acceptable or unacceptable. But that doesn't mean the person is good or the person is bad. Okay? Because everybody has the potential to become a Buddha. Everybody has Buddha nature. Okay? So how can you say anybody is pure evil? Impossible. No way to say that. It's totally ridiculous to say that. We can't say somebody is bad. That's like saying the Buddha nature is bad. That's like saying, telling the Buddha he's a liar because he said that every sentient being can become a Buddha, that every sentient being can become fully enlightened. Buddha, you're wrong. That person's pure evil, irredeemable, totally stupid. Yeah, you want to say that to the Buddha, that he doesn't know what he's talking about? That he's fully awakened and omniscient, and he made a boo-boo? Okay. So we have to believe in our own potential, and we have to believe in the potential of other living beings. Because whoever somebody is this life, first of all, they're not one fixed personality. They're always changing and always in flux. And second of all, people are quite different from one lifetime to the next. They say the 13th Dalai Lama was very stern. Yeah. 14th Dalai Lama sometimes can be stern, but most of the time, not. Yeah. But I've seen him stern. Yeah. So he knows when that's necessary. And I'm sure the 13th Dalai Lama knew when it's good to laugh, too. Okay. Okay, let's go back here. Oops. Okay, so you did the meditative reflection, right? And then on page 205, extending this insight to others. Okay, now that you have identified the mechanics of misery in your own situation, you can extend this insight to other sentient beings suffering the same miseries. So, same thing, we're all in the same bucket. Or maybe I should say, we're all buckets in the same well. Okay? However, for your response to be love and compassion, it is not sufficient just to know how other beings suffer. You must also have a sense of closeness with them. Otherwise, The more you know about your enemy's suffering, the happier you might be. Okay? So just knowing that we're all buckets in the same well, yeah, isn't sufficient. We have to also develop a sense of closeness to others. Yeah. So, contemplating that everybody wants happiness and not suffering equally, that brings one level of understanding. But to really develop love and compassion, we have to train our mind to see all those living beings in a favorable light and to feel close to them. Yeah. If our judgmental, critical mind is always operating, picking faults, disliking, criticizing, complaining, if our mind is always doing that, it's going to be very difficult to see others as kind. It's going to be very difficult to feel close to them. We'll want to keep everybody at a distance. And then who suffers when we keep everybody at a distance? And when, we don't allow ourselves to feel close to others. And when we push people away, who suffers? Yeah, we do. Aren't we the chief person who suffers due to our own perspectives and attitudes and emotions? Yeah, we're the chief one. Okay? So, if we see compassion as a quality that's really wonderful in the world and that we want to develop, then to create the causes for having compassion, we have to do something with our judgmental, critical, fault-picking, discriminative, you aren't measuring up, you do what I don't like, mind. Yeah, that makes any feeling of closeness to others very, very difficult. Okay. So actually, the first thing we need to do is deal with our anger and our hatred. Yeah. Although we often say there's 3 poisonous attitudes: ignorance, attachment, and anger. Anger is the one that harms, they all harm us, but anger harms us in a very blatant way. Okay? First, because we're unhappy when we're angry. Aren't we? Yeah. When you're angry, are you going, oh, I'm having such a good day? No, we don't say that when we're angry. We're totally miserable when we're angry. Okay? So anger makes us unhappy. And anger destroys our merit. The merit, the virtuous karma that we, try to create with effort. When we get angry, the anger is like fire that burns it up and either delays it from ripening or makes it ripen sooner. I'm sorry. This is not making sense, is it? Okay. It delays the ripening of our virtuous karma, and it makes our negative karma ripen sooner. That makes sense, right? Okay. It doesn't make our virtuous karma ripen sooner. It weakens the result, and it interferes with it ripening. Okay. But we can really see how anger can be a condition that will help our own non-virtuous karma to ripen. Okay. When you're driving a car and you're angry, are you more likely to get in an accident? Yep. Yeah. I saw that one time, not even in a car. I was vacuuming the floor and I was really mad. You know? And then I stopped and I said, children, you're going to hurt yourself if you vacuum the floor with this kind of anger. You know? Because I was going to jam into something or trip over something or whatever. Yeah. So we can see the anger can make bad situations ripen, and it can make us careless even in this life. Yeah.
And the Abbey's had a total knee replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And she fell and then tore that up and had to have a second surgery. And she wrote me that this was her own fault due to her anger. She fell because of her anger.
You mean she was angry at the time that she fell?
Yeah, she said, this accident, whatever happened, I don't know, it was an email, so it was brief. But she said, I injured myself due to my own anger.
Yeah.
I don't know any details.
Yeah.
So then it's been a huge, thing.
Yeah. But we can see that, when we're angry, we don't even take care of ourselves very well, do we? Okay. So then the question arises, how do we work with our anger? Because there's so many obnoxious people around that disturb our happiness. How am I supposed to work with my anger when these people make me angry? And they're so obnoxious that anger is the only possible emotion you can have in response to people like that. That's the way we think, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Any person in their right mind would hate that person as much as I do. Because look what they've done. So inconsiderate, so rude. They put me in an uncomfortable, emotional place. They make fun of me. Yeah. They challenge me. I don't need any challenges. I have enough. Leave me alone. Yeah. They don't do what I want. They make me do what I don't want to do. Right? Yeah. They make me angry. My anger has nothing to do with me. It all comes from them because they make me angry. I have no responsibility for my anger. If I tell somebody off, it's because they're really like that and they deserve it. Because nobody else can put them in their place and they need to be told what their place is. Otherwise, they're going to be behaving like this to everybody else. You can tell what I heard as a child. Yeah, this kind of talking and thinking, it comes so naturally, doesn't it? Yeah, and then we believe it. And we're right. So we're not only angry, we have righteous anger. And God is on our side. Yeah, our anger is true, and the other person deserves it. Yeah. Why? Because they put the spatula in the wrong place. When I was in Russia a few weeks ago, I did this whole thing about the spatula and how angry we get. And the Russians were just cracking up, you know. So I told them, well, you come to visit the Abbey, you'll know what I'm talking about. That spatula has incredible power over people. And if you put it in the wrong place, you are doomed. You know? Okay, but whatever our reason is for being angry, it's always a good reason, isn't it? Yeah, we haven't misunderstood other people. In fact, we're angry because they don't understand us, isn't it? We haven't misunderstood them. We understand them perfectly. Yeah, they don't understand me, so they deserve my hatred. Yeah, and the more I hate them, the angrier I am at them, the nastier I am, the more they'll decide that they better do things my way. Just like the people who punished us when we were kids. Did we do things their way? Only when they were looking, not when they didn't look. But we still think if we punish other people with our anger, that will convince them to do what we want. And it'll not only convince them to do what we want, but it will convince them that we are superior. And that's why they should do what we want. Yeah, we are superior. Okay? So we're going to be angry at you. I'm going to hate you. I'm going to be nasty until you decide that you love me and you're going to be nice to me. Is something wrong in that logic? Is something wrong? Is that your experience, your personal experience, that when somebody is mean and nasty and makes fun of you, that you decide you like them and you're going to do things their way? No. You may be afraid of them and do things that way, their way. Yeah. But that doesn't really, benefit the person who's angry. Yeah, okay, somebody does things my way, but underneath it, they don't like me. And it'll come out in some way another way that will make me miserable. Okay. So, this is our national policy also. We will bomb you until you decide that you like us and you're going to do things our way. Yeah? Isn't it? With some presidents. Does it work? No. Okay, so one way to help us deal with our anger is to remember again and again the disadvantages of anger. Yeah? And really go over. We just went through them, a lot of them, but go over them and you meditate on them one by one. And you see in your own life what the effect of your anger has been. And then you ask yourself if your anger is really leading you in the direction that you want to go in. Yeah? If you really think everybody's obnoxious and you really want them to leave you alone, then better to live on a desert island. A deserted island. A desert island could have a lot of people. A deserted island, go off and just, imprison yourself in a room, and then you don't have to deal with anybody. if you think that's the benefit that your anger brings. But do you really want to live on a deserted island in the middle of the Arctic? Yeah? Do you really want to just stay in your room all day without other kind people bringing you food? Yeah. So, really check what is it that we're trying to get out of our anger? Because I doubt that whatever it is we're really trying to get, I don't think our anger is really accomplishing that. Because if whatever it is we're trying to get out of being angry, if it really accomplished that, then there would be no need to continually get angry, because we would have already accomplished the goal of our anger. Yeah? If the goal of my anger is to, make people be afraid of me, because we confuse fear and respect, and if they're afraid of me, then they'll respect me. Actually, being afraid of somebody and respecting them are polar opposites, but we get them confused. Then, if anger really worked as a way for people to respect me, how come everybody doesn't respect me by now? I've certainly gotten angry enough at all of them. Yeah. So our anger doesn't even fulfill whatever it is we think we're getting out of it. And that's for each of us alone to look inside and think, what is my anger doing for me? Yeah? What is it really doing for me? Is it accomplishing that purpose? Or is it actually interfering with what I really want? Okay. When in a family, when you get really mad at somebody, especially in your spouse, a spouse or partner, when you get really mad at them, and they can be one of the people you get most mad at, what is it you really want at that moment when you're furious? Yeah. What you're really wanting is to be close to them, to love them and to receive their love. But what's the anger doing? The anger is making them go far away. It's working in counter purposes to what we really want in our heart. Yeah. Lots of times in a work situation, if we're furious with somebody and really fed up, if we ask ourselves in our heart, what is it that I really want? It could be, I want good communication. I want cooperation. But when I'm angry, am I opening the door to good communication? Am I making it easy for the other person to cooperate with me? No. I'm making it more difficult. Okay, so really sit, and think about this kind of thing. Don't just say, oh, anger is bad, I shouldn't get angry. That doesn't mean anything. First of all, I'm not telling you shouldn't get angry. Okay, repeat. Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't get angry, because should doesn't mean anything. What I'm saying is, when you get angry, do you want to stay angry? Is anger a quality that you want to develop in your life that's going to make your life better? That's what I'm asking. Okay? So at some point, if we decide that our anger isn't helping us and that it's interfering with our happiness, then maybe we need to start doing something about it.
I had the Abbey flu this morning.
The Abbey flu?
Yes.
What are you talking about? We have a flu here. Are you criticizing the Abbey? Oh.
It lasted about 20 minutes.
Uh-huh.
I came in, I did the water bowls this morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I came in super early, so I was the only one here.
Mm-hmm.
I could not find the bucket.
Oh, it's with a spatula.
I looked high and low all around here. I went over to the kitchen. Where is the bucket? I got so frustrated. Not angry, but frustrated. No, not angry, just frustrated.
Oh, yes.
Which I'm sure, it is a form of anger. Where is the bucket? That so-and-so last night didn't put the bucket in its usual place. After about 20 minutes, thank goodness, I found Venerable Lamsel and Jim, who told me the new location for the bucket, which I hadn't been informed about. A tremendous Dharma lesson. But I kept saying to myself while I was in this throes of frustration, this is a Dharma lesson. This is change. Something has changed. And it really was a good Dharma lesson for me.
Good.
About 20 minutes of frustration.
Oh, so since it was so good, I'm sure the person who empties the bowl tonight will put the bucket in an even different place for you tomorrow morning.
That's going to be me. Tell me where it is. Where will it be?
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments so far? Yeah.
I'm about 3 years into Buddhism now, and I think one of the most wonderful things about it is how you get outside of yourself and you work on loosening the sense of the self. And at the same time, with the bodhicitta practice, you're cultivating this care about other people, which maybe doesn't come naturally, because you're right, we feel like victims and we feel like everybody's out to get us and we're right and they're wrong and all of these things that you mentioned today. And so I don't want to get into what you were saying, but I couldn't help but think, like we were laughing about your encounter with, we called them snowflakes. I think what happens is not to take away the way that people feel, because we've all felt like that. We've all felt like an outsider. We've all felt like we don't belong somewhere. We walk in, people don't look like me. I mean, I've heard Venerable yourself speak about when you were in the 60s, everybody sort of looked like Jan Brady with the long blonde straight hair. And we had the dark, whatever hair and whatever. So I get that. We've all felt like that. But what I love about Buddhism is that we really we really do look at people and we say, wow, it's just a person who wants to be happy. And that's like what we look at. So I can understand when you encounter these people, because a lot of the young people today, and I met a wonderful young person here, so they're not all like that.
You saved the millennials.
But I think part of how they were raised is, I'm 51 years old, so I grew up with the old kind of liberal mentality, which was, my God, go to college to have different ideas, and you don't have to agree with the ideas, and read banned books, and that's what we were. We aspired to do that.
Yeah.
But now it's like everything is a trigger, and everything's me and my identity, and my sexual orientation, my race, my religion, and everybody's angry at everybody over everything. And I think some of us older people, we scratch our heads and we're like, all right, there's people that are just biased and backward people, but I think most people are open, and maybe they don't come to it. Maybe they didn't think they were going to end up being as open. But for example, like Dick Cheney had a gay daughter. All of a sudden, he became for gay rights, or somebody who had AIDS, or maybe they come to it in a different way. But I think if you give people a chance, they're not that bad. But people just are screaming at each other now because they're all wrapped up in me and I'm the victim and I'm the this and I'm the that. And I think Buddhism would really help these people, but I don't know how you could say to them,
Let's go convert them.
I don't see, that was my next thing, is I don't see how you're going to, they have to come, I think your thing is just be, like what you said yesterday, just, do something different, be a good example. And I think
Yeah.
that's all you can do, because you can't force people, because look
Yeah.
what happened like with communism. Communism sounds like a great idea in theory, right? Everybody gets everything,
Yeah.
but then look what happens when you have impose it on people and you have totalitarian regimes. That wasn't so great.
Yeah.
So, so we can't impose it. I just think that your foray into identity politics now, I think it's scary out there to go talk at a college, and I give you a lot of credit for doing it.
Yeah.
This is a good opportunity to share something I've been kind of waiting for an opening for, is a book that I just very recently actually listened to the audiobook on the drive here, which I think is required reading or listening for anyone who is struggling to find compassion and understanding for the political right. The book is titled Strangers in Their Own Land, Anger and Mourning on the American Right. And it was a sociologist, a left-leaning Berkeley, California, University of Berkeley sociologist, who her motivation was she wanted to cross what she called the empathy wall. She wanted to bridge that wall and really come to understand and know people. So I really respect this person. She left Berkeley, went to Louisiana, and really got to know some people. And she really came to consider them as her Tea Party friends. And the book is wonderful. It begins, it doesn't just start with, here's what I observe my theory. She leads you into the lives of these people and really fleshes them out as people, just
Yeah.
like me.
Yeah.
Same wish for happiness, same aversion to suffering, just as different, what she calls the deep story, the lens that they see the world through, leads them to a radically different conclusion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, strangers in their own land.
Okay.
I had one question I wanted to ask actually. So it's about meditation practice itself. So I grew up in a Hindu background, and when I was growing up, I could see in the movies and the stories many ancient.
Could you hold the mic?
Sure.
To it?
Yeah. So I grew up in a Hindu background, and when I was growing up as a small kid, I could see a lot of stories and movies and TV shows. They were showing how ancient Hindu gods were meditating for long term, and so the purpose they were meditating is to see some god or something. They would showcase God would appear in front of them, and then they would basically give some gift or something. And I used to ask my mom question my mom different things about religious practice, and if any question was asked in a wrong way, mom is don't ask this question, you're going to make God angry. So and then I started seeing why are they meditating, why do these people meditate? And then my mom said they want to see the God, and they would appear after you practice so long. And then one time I went to this place called Kushal Nagar in it's a Buddhist monastery in south of India, and I asked the same question why are these people are meditating, and Buddha is going to appear in front of them and then grant their wishes. And this was my perspective long time back. And now I'm in a phase of life I'm questioning various things, sole purpose why people do the same thing and doing. And one thing I could see in different practices is they all speak about seeing oneness or connectedness. I see Hindu, some accomplished followers, they say they're connected with God and universe. And I've seen some talks by Buddhist monks, and they say they can't differentiate themselves and the rest of the world. I'm not able to digest this concept of what is this oneness means and how can everything be connected.
Okay, first of all, in Buddhism, we don't talk about oneness so much because as soon as you have one, it's implying two and three and so on. So we usually talk about non-dual. And that is, the non-duality is spoken about mostly in terms of the ultimate mode of existence, that all things have the same ultimate mode of existence. Okay? In terms of being with other living beings, yeah, we are different, but we're trying to, as I was showing before, see how at the base we're all very much the same. In samsara, we're all afflicted by ignorance, anger, and confusion. We all want happiness and we don't want suffering. So we see ourselves as having that commonality, even though, of course, we're very, very different from each other. In terms of Buddhahood, Buddhahood isn't just becoming one with everything. It's seeing that our mode of existence and others' mode of existence are non-dual. It's a non-duality of subject and object, where there's no feeling of me perceiving the object over there. Okay? It's a non-duality where there's no inherent existence. And that's usually realized in meditative equipoise. Yeah. But a Buddha also sees all the different varieties of phenomena. So we say Buddha sees the mode of existence and he sees the varieties, because both exist. Yeah. The deeper way things exist. And on the level of appearances, all the differences exist. Okay. How we respond to the differences is another question altogether. We can make a big deal out of them. We can make a not big deal out of them. Buddhas, in one way, are exactly the same. They have the same characteristics on the conventional level. They have the same ultimate mode of existence on the deeper level of existence. But they're still different Buddhas. Okay? But they get along really well.